C5 Insight is a Microsoft partner that plans, builds, and supports solutions in Dynamics 365, Teams, SharePoint, and the Power Platform. Contact us to modernize your business today.
All right. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Our speakers are going to be covering Copilot use cases for leaders and managers. So if you're interested in Copilot, you've been using Copilot, if you are a leader or a manager and Copilot uses have not trickled up to that level of your organization, our speakers are going to address some use cases to really help them do their job well. So time permitting, we will be hosting Q&A at the end of today's webinar. At the top of Teams, you can click the Q&A icon and submit any questions. I'll be moderating those at the end. And if we don't get a chance to answer them, we'll follow up with you directly. So I'm going to pass it off and get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. Quickly, we'll run through some introductions of the two presenters that you are going to be hearing from today. First up, myself. My name is Jordan Loeffler. I'm a technical consultant here at C5 Insight. I've been with C5 for about a year and a half and worked directly at Microsoft for close to 10 years before joining C5. I work from home in New York City, which is what you see up on the screen here, in my life here in New York, and spend pretty much all day, every day, getting to talk about, present, and demo on Copilot. So very excited to kick off the beginning of this presentation with you today. But before we get too deep into the covered features we're going to be walking through, I'm going to pass it over to my co-presenter to introduce herself as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Jordan. My name is Traci Winter. I'm Senior Director of Business Consulting here at C5. I've been here for just under a year. I manage the sales aspect with support from marketing. Prior to C5, I was at Click Dimensions, a MarTech solution, where I was CRO across the marketing solution. Prior to that, I was at Microsoft for 10 years as well. So I am located in the heart of Dynamics in Fargo, North Dakota. So I am excited to support and help and get going today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Traci. And with that, we're going to start jumping in and taking a look at what we're going to be covering in our session today. As Haley introduced, and as you saw when you were joining, today is all about leadership and management use cases inside of Microsoft Copilot. We're going to be starting with a little bit of why Copilot, why AI, and why right now is why you should be paying attention to it. The bulk of today is going to be going through those use cases. We have 7 different use cases lined up that you can see how to bring Copilot into your day-to-day as a leader or a manager of a team. We'll move then into how you can track your success in this space and the overall Copilot adoption for your team before we wrap up with some best practices and next steps before moving into our Q&A. So to go ahead and kick things off with our first section here, just really diving into why Copilot and why now, really. You're all here for a reason, and AI and Copilot has obviously been quite a large conversation over the past, year and a half, almost 2 years now since Microsoft started to roll this out. So I wanted to level set a little bit so we're all on the same page and understanding what we're looking at before we start diving into the actual hands-on features. So Copilot is essentially a brand new category of computing. From Satya Nadella himself, the CEO of Microsoft, said that Copilot and AI, this is as significant as the PC was to the 80s, as the web was to the 90s, as mobile is to the 2000s, and as cloud was to the 2010s. Just like you boot up an operating system to access your applications or use your browser to navigate websites, you will be involving Copilot to do all of these activities and more. And if the CEO of the company that makes, all of the business applications that we are already using and running our businesses on is telling us that, AI is going to be as significant to us as things like our phones and our computers that we can't go a single day without using, then, maybe we should all be paying attention, and now's a great time to start getting on board with what they're pushing and what Copilot's able to do for us. So overall, the goal is to use this to be more knowledgeable, be more productive, more creative, and really just be more connected to the people around you and the data that your organization has available. And when we look at that data, A big question around Copilot and AI is, what can it access? So one of the things that really sets Microsoft Copilot apart from some of the other AI options available is how it connects to your organization's data through Microsoft Graph. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Microsoft Graph is basically the backbone of M365. It pulls together data from your emails, calendars, chats, documents, meetings, and more. So why does that matter? Well, for business leaders like yourselves, it means that Copilot can help uncover insights that would normally take you hours to find. Think about being able to quickly spot productivity trends, track project progress, or even identify communication gaps without having to dig through spreadsheets or send a single follow-up email. And for your everyday users, those end users in your organizations, it's also a game changer for them as well. Copilot can help draft emails based on recent conversations. It can pull together meeting summaries and even suggest what to focus on next based on what their calendars and tasks look like. So it's really having a super smart assistant that can actually understand your workday and the processes of your organization. At the end of the day, this kind of access turns Copilot into more than just a helpful tool, but it really becomes a real partner to how we work and allows us to make smarter decisions around the work that we're getting done. Now, a lot of people have had apprehension when it comes to how AI interacts with data. We do have a really helpful FAQ pre-built that is available in the deck post-meeting or post-session today if you'd like to review some of that information. But you can feel rest assured in knowing that bringing Copilot in and the access to that Microsoft Graph to touch on all that enterprise data you have meets the same level of enterprise-grade data protection as the rest of the Microsoft products that you are already using. If you're already running your business on the M365 products, on Teams, on Outlook, on OneDrive, those all have enterprise-grade data protection built into them, and they meet levels of compliance across various types of industries. So if you're already trusting your business to those applications, Copilot fits in right alongside of those with the same compliance, that same protection, so you can feel rest assured in the types of data that it's accessing across your organization. And being able to combine that Microsoft Graph data with your apps and that protection while utilizing the large language model of Copilot is really how it's able to be this everyday assistant for you. And that's even before we touch on anything like Copilot Studio and really being able to customize that Copilot experience as well, which we'll get into a little bit towards the end of today's session. And overall, why does that matter? We've talked a little bit so far today about that data Copilot's accessing and what that means to the prompts and answers we're going to be digging into today. But according to some research, starting with McKinsey, they have found that when organizations make information more easily accessible to everyone, they're 2.1 times more likely to succeed in their adoption efforts. And research through IBM has found that the fastest growing organizations are 108% better at accessing data, and that's fastest growing with their revenue growth there. So in other words, making knowledge more readily available not only helps transformation, but it's the reason for transformation. It's the reason for growth. And as we go through today, you'll be able to see that in action, how Copilot's ability to access your data through that graph is in turn going to hopefully help your digital transformation and growth overall. So with an understanding of why we're here and what Copilot's able to do utilizing your information, let's start jumping right into the beginning of our 7 different leadership use cases that we're going to be looking at today. To start, as we move through our demonstrations today, we'll be doing it through the lens of this funnel that you see up on screen. As you likely know, there are many different entry points to accessing Copilot. There's various licenses, chats, add-ons, agents that you can choose from depending on your needs and your business use cases. Most of what we cover today are features readily available out of the box with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And as we move through the presentation, we're going to work through these separate sections, starting with being able to look at easy to implement out-of-the-box features. Then we'll move up to a slightly more advanced process enhancements where we can see how we can connect several pieces of our daily processes using Copilot. And finally, we'll take it up to the customization level and look at some of the more advanced options available through things like Copilot Agents and Studio before we wrap with some of those adoption best practices and next steps. So with all of that, let's start jumping into some of those foundational features, with the first one up being the ability to have meeting summaries and action items instantly. So as someone that has sat across various leadership roles myself and led quite a few teams, sometimes it feels like all day it's just meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm sure many of you here can relate to just an endless list of meeting prep, then taking a meeting and then doing the meeting follow-up, rinse and repeat day in and day out. And oftentimes when in leadership positions especially, it is fully your responsibility to make sure that meetings stay on track, that notes are being taken and shared out, that follow-ups are assigned. You may even need to have each of your employee meetings, coaching sessions, and one-on-ones documented for HR compliance. The amount of mundane or repetitive tasks involved in this process can be endless, but this is really where Copilot can come in. With Copilot and Teams meetings, you'll never have to take a note again, which sounds like a big goal, but it's quite true. So let's watch a demo together here on a post-meeting recap to see some of the ways that Copilot can help you during and after your calls when it comes to this process. Not only does Copilot offer fantastic assistance for you during your Teams meetings, all of the same great features can be utilized post-meeting inside of your intelligent recaps. To access the recap, simply go to the Meetings tab and select your recent meeting. Copilot automatically generates a detailed recap. You'll see a summary of the discussion, decisions made, and tasks assigned. This includes key points, action items, and even highlights important moments from the meeting. Copilot's intelligent recap also identifies and highlights critical segments of the meeting, making it easy to review important information without watching the entire thing. Outside of the auto-generated follow-up, you also have the ability to chat and interact with your Copilot assistant the same way you would inside of a call. Here, I can ask Copilot to do things like summarize the meeting or get more details around our follow-up tasks and when they need to be completed. With Copilot and Microsoft Teams, staying on top of your meetings has never been easier. Give it a try and see how it can enhance your productivity. So can very quickly and easily not only get those summarized insights from a call, whether it was, a quick one-on-one or a multi-hour planning session with some of your other leaders, but also the ability to gather those feedback follow-up tasks, assign those out, get information that you can email to the team, all of that at your fingertips instantly, and AI generated without you even needing to manually prompt for a lot of that can be a huge time saver. And now speaking of prompting a little bit, when interacting with Copilot, I want you to be regularly thinking about the phrase, Copilot gives you what you give it. And this can apply to a lot of things. For example, making sure your data hygiene is up to date and that your data is organized, structured, and accurate will in turn allow Copilot to give you responses to prompts that are also organized, structured, and accurate. And the idea of prompt engineering comes into play, which is the process of really crafting a prompt that perfectly represents what you need Copilot to action on for you. So here we have two different prompts, both of which were fully real prompts that we had shared to us from some of our clients after we've gone through Copilot trainings. As you can see, you can be as broad or as specific as you need to in order to get the exact results that you're looking for. The one on the right might seem a little dramatic to you, and I may agree with you in some cases, but really just wanting to highlight the vast differences in responses you can get from Copilot based on what you're providing to it in your prompts. So try a few iterations of prompts when you're summarizing your meetings or going through any of today's examples really to see various results you can get simply by just reshaping your initial asks and how you're engaging Copilot to start. But outside of just some of the summarizing that we can get for meetings and taking your notes and recording follow-up tasks, there's a lot of additional ways you can utilize the Copilot chat and Teams to further enhance your meetings by seeking feedback and advice. The call transcript and chat is the data that Copilot is analyzing when you're prompting about a meeting. So asking Copilot to review that entire transcript and give you direct feedback on how you can improve the running of similar meetings can be an extremely easy but powerful way to make your meetings more productive and have less team members coming to you after that telling you that that meeting probably could have been an email. So let's watch and see how we can engage with Copilot to get that feedback.
Allie wasn't able to participate in a meeting with one of her coworkers, Jordan. But because she's Jordan's manager and she's in charge of the account that he was meeting with, Allie'd like to get an update on how Jordan did and how the client responded. So she asked Copilot about how Jordan did in the specific meeting. No surprise, looks like Jordan did a great job. But what about some insights about who engaged? Maybe there's an opportunity for Allie to follow up. Well, she uses the prompts already provided by Copilot to ask that question. And it looks like there are some great takeaways from the meeting and some potential opportunities to engage to do more work with this client.
So whether it's tagging the meeting for review inside of your Copilot chat, like we saw in the video, or asking for direct feedback right in that post-call recap, like you can see in the snipping on screen, Copilot has a lot of insight it can offer you to make sure that you are running the best meetings that you can and that you can continually be in a loop of feedback and improvement when it comes to the deliverables that you are setting up your meetings around. So we've looked at a couple of different use cases driven around meetings and how those can be improved, enhanced, and hopefully give you a little bit of time back as you're preparing and recovering from them. But we're going to be moving into some of the broader Microsoft 365 stack now. And as we move through some of these other applications, you'll notice that Copilot features change to match the context of the application that you're working in. So rather than getting meeting summaries and follow-up tasks like we just saw in Teams, when we move over into Copilot in Excel, we're going to be greeted with many great time-saving analytical features like generating data insights from hundreds of rows of data, instantly generating custom formulas, quickly building visuals, charts and pivot tables, and even dipping into some advanced analytics using custom Python code that is all generated by Copilot itself. Let's take a look at how easy it is to understand some large sets of data and start making sense of your sales using Copilot. Using your Copilot assistant, you can more efficiently gain accurate insights about your data. Even when needing to make sense of hundreds of rows of data, Copilot for Microsoft 365 inside of Excel can easily pull out identifiable information using some pre-generated prompts. Not only will it start to recommend pieces of information that it thinks is insightful, but will also back that up with additional details that could be found throughout your data. If we wanted, we could continue to utilize some pre-generated prompts, but I'm going to ask it a custom prompt. Now, whether we're using our own custom prompts or we're taking advantage of the pre-made prompts that Copilot is recommending, it never takes more than a couple clicks to gain some insight into our data inside of Excel. Now, let's take this one step further and bring some of that insights into a new sheet so we can visualize this data. Now, Copilot's going to bring this information into a table on a new sheet, allowing me to more easily understand and digest the information. But it's also going to turn this into a pivot table so I can continue to adjust information I'm looking at to find the most relevant information for my process. So some really powerful insight there and analytical features we were starting to look at. And what we saw is just the tip of what you can do with analysis in Excel. Also, as a tip, Excel is the only M365 app that does require your document to have autosave turned on before you start accessing Copilot. So if you're going to start to jump in and try some of these tools, make sure that you're getting the autosave turned on in order to activate and use some of the features that we're looking at today. But outside of just some of those individual application-based features in that foundational feature section that we were looking at, we want to start looking at the connection of processes and how we can utilize that Microsoft Graph to more broadly bring together the different applications we use in a day-to-day. Now, After moving through those individual ones, we're going to jump into our Copilot chat and see how it can enhance our day-to-day, and it can fully replace things like your web browsing. It has access to all of your work and web data that you may need, so it gives you a large scope of search and data access. It can be spoken to in a very natural language, so it allows you to kind of utilize that as the UI to your AI experience, and speak to it in the same way you would speak to a peer or somebody else on your team. Thanks to all of that, we can really utilize this Copilot chat to help us tackle a very busy workload, which is what we're going to be looking at in our example here. So whether it was, coming into work after a long holiday weekend, like some of you may have just experienced this week, or maybe you're just regularly inundated with emails and incoming tasks, and trying to keep up with what needs to be done can be, an entire job in and of itself. We're going to take a look at how using your Copilot chat, it can not only analyze your inbox and access the emails through that Microsoft Graph connection, but it can help you when it comes to prioritizing the lingering tasks that you have and even start to build out an agenda for you to tackle those remaining tasks. So let's take a look at how Copilot can help us here. Together, let's take a look at how we can use Copilot directly inside of Teams to not only catch us up on all of the unread emails inside of our inbox, but also use Copilot as a great assistant to help us organize those tasks to build an agenda for our week. First, I'm going to access the Copilot chat found directly inside of Teams on the left-hand ribbon. And all I'm going to ask it to do is to summarize what I currently have unread in my inbox. We can see here that after just a moment, it was able to give me a summary of some of the unread emails that I have, whether it be upcoming meetings, tasks that are overdue, or Q&A sessions I have coming up with some potential prospects. Now that I have a great summary from Copilot highlighting some of those unread emails in my inbox, I want to take that one step further and use my Copilot assistant here to help me build an agenda so I can tackle these in a way that makes sense with my calendar and the urgency of the requests coming in. All I have to do is give it that new prompt asking to help me organize my tasks that were listed above. And as we can see, after just a couple of moments here, Copilot was able to scan through those different unread emails and tasks that I have to complete and helped me build an agenda to tackle what needed to get done based on how urgent the different messages sounded. Now I have a strong start to my week and I'm able to go about my day in a much more organized fashion. So we were able to easily see there how, while staying inside of one application, just inside of Teams, we were able to search across many applications that are a part of our day-to-day processes. We looked through our messages in Teams, our meetings, our tasks, our emails, and Copilot was able to build out a process for us, prioritize our time, and bring in all the information from the graph it was able to analyze in that one application. But you're also able to connect multi-application processes together utilizing Copilot as well. So rather than thinking about Copilot as replacing a task, you can see it as enhancing each step of the way. So we're going to take a look at our next use case here, which is policy and document drafting, to understand how Copilot can help with both the creation of new HR policy, but also when we start to look at things like custom agents inside of SharePoint, you have the ability to put up some guardrails around the type of information that your copilots have access to. So rather than giving Copilot the ability to look very broadly through your entire Microsoft Graph and the entire web, you can put up guardrails specifying the exact information you want your Copilot to access. A great example of why this would be beneficial would be what we're looking at here, which is utilizing a Copilot agent that is only referencing your HR policies stored in a SharePoint library. So whenever your end users need accurate HR advice, they can simply trust their Copilot agent that is built off of that HR policy info in order to provide it for them. So rather than needing to search through documentation or come to you as the leader, where you then have to take your time to locate this information. They have an agent that is able to source that for them. So let's watch how Copilot can help with streamlining both that document creation, but also then the location of documentation and information inside of SharePoint.
Struggling to leverage Microsoft Enterprise solutions? At C5 Insight, we understand the intersection between technology, business, and people. Contact us to learn more.
I like the change. Together, let's look at Copilot in Microsoft 365 directly inside of Microsoft Word, turning this application into your intelligent assistant for drafting and editing documents. Copilot helps you draft documents effortlessly. Start by typing your ideas, be specific, and provide references when needed to get the perfect first draft. With just a simple prompt, we were able to generate an entire outline for a business proposal. But I want to make some changes. With Copilot, drafting and editing becomes seamless, allowing you to focus on your ideas while it takes care of the details. For example, I can ask Copilot to add a couple more sections to my outline. And just like the first time we prompted Copilot, it's going to take just a moment to add my changes. I like the changes I see, so I'm going to go ahead and keep those, but let's make some more adjustments. First, I'm going to have Copilot auto rewrite some of my outline and replace the previous text with the new attempt, but I'm also going to use Copilot to change the structure of my list and rewrite some of this information as a table. I'm going to go ahead, insert that table, and remove the previous information. With Copilot for Microsoft 365, your writing, your style, and your clarity become better and more efficient. So we can see that Copilot in Word can not only, save you some time and energy when it comes to the actual drafting, changing structure, and content of the policies that you're building directly inside of Word, but we'll also now take a look at now how once that document is already created, you have your new policies in place, an agent can be a fantastic use case to source that information for your end users.
See right here is 72. Look at how we can leverage Copilot within SharePoint to create our own custom agents. Now, what is an agent? An agent is a specialized AI assistant designed to enhance the capabilities of Microsoft 365 Copilot by connecting your organization's knowledge and data sources. So now that we know what it is, let's go into our documents and open up this file called Weekly Status Reports. You'll notice that there's 5 weeks of status reports that are within here. And what I want to do is I want to really understand this data a little bit more, dive a little bit deeper, and get a little bit more information here. So what I can do is right click on the folder and select Create an Agent. Now, this is going to open our agent on the right-hand pane. On the side here, I want to actually see it in the browser a little bit bigger. So I'm going to refresh, click on the agent itself, and now we have it in the browser. So in this example, we want to understand what are the average sales totals over the past 5 weeks. So if I send this information, it's going to comb through all the files that we have that you saw, those 5 documents. It's going to capture the weeks and their sales totals. Then it's actually going to calculate and give me the average over the last 5 weeks, which you can see right here is $72,400. So this is a very powerful way that we can streamline and use custom agents to meet needs and specific requirements within our organization.
So we were able to see in this use case, whether it was the individual application we were in before, or if we're looking at multi-application processes that we may be going through, like building out brand new documentation and then needing that documentation to be accessible and findable for our users, Copilot can help in each one of those steps to give us a little time and energy back to our day. So as we saw, there are a lot of ways to customize agents. We looked a little bit through some SharePoint agents, but that is just one of many types of agents that are built into Copilot. In this last of our 7 use cases here, we're going to be taking a look and moving into the Copilot agent in Microsoft 365 and Copilot Studio space to gain a little bit more customization features and connector options. Now, creating an agent in Studio allows you to not only reference that Microsoft Graph data that we've been talking about, and bringing in all of those points like your emails, your files, your meetings. But it also gives you connection to things like public websites, to broader Dataverse connections like your planners, to CRM records, to product files, all types of different things that you can bring in as data sources for that Copilot agent to use. So let's take a look at how easy it is to access a product information agent, which instantly provides accurate product info to your end users or to yourself so you can answer questions more knowledgeably and more quickly for your team. And then we'll also take a look at the ways that you can set one of these up by making some of those backend data connections. So let's jump in.
Contoso has created a sales playbook in SharePoint. Ali created a Copilot Studio agent so the sales team could easily interact with the information to get answers to their questions quickly. For example, a user can use this sample prompt to request information about how to approach a prospect in a specific industry. The agent responds with information summarized from the playbook site or their website. And the user can ask follow-up questions to get more details.
So quick overview there, but very easy to see how quickly that need to know information is readily sourced, whether that was to you as a leader so you can be informed for a conversation or answer any customer or employee inquiries, or one of your end users that are directly interacting with your clients. They can find all the information that they need to know that fast at their fingertips. So let's look quickly at how we can set one of those up.
Let's take a look at how Ali Jamison created this Copilot Studio agent. Creating the agent was as simple as filling out this form. Ali gave it a name and a description. The instructions tell Copilot how to behave and can even give it a bit of personality. Knowledge tells it where to get the training it needs. In this case, Ali pointed it to the Sales Playbook SharePoint site and to their company website. Lastly, Ali also created a set of starter prompts so users would know how to interact with the agent. When she was done, she just published it.
So as you saw in there, the actual creation of something more custom for your organization doesn't even need to involve anything custom as far as pro coding or any high level of technical achievement needed. With very natural language, direct connection to the knowledge sources that you already have established, you're able to have an agent that is customized to the needs of your day-to-day. And hopefully what we saw in there, really taking us back to where we started a lot of our conversation today, is that ultimately just that information being easy to access and utilize drives change, it drives growth, and it drives adoption. You as a leader will save time, you'll be bothered less by your team that is in need of answers, and you can watch your business grow all thanks to agents accessing your own work data. So we've walked through, 7 use cases, a lot of different examples throughout pretty much the entire M365 stack, starting with the most simple out-of-the-box features, moving up to some of our more complex and custom situations that we can set up. But you can do all the use cases, all the training, and all the Copilot work in the world. But if you're not tracking your success and understanding where that adoption is going, then you are likely to fall short of your overall goal. Now, when we look at the idea of tracking success, we stand by LUCK. So LUCK is an acronym that describes how well-run organizations are more people-centric. Which might be funny to be talking about things being more people-centric when we're in a whole conversation about AI, but it all comes together. And when we look at this LUCK acronym, that is listening and remembering better, it's understanding and analyzing to make better decisions, connecting through more consistent and meaningful processes, and knowing the results so there can be that continuous improvement cycle. Now, LUCK is how well-adjusted humans interact with each other. But it's also how well-run organizations use those digital solutions to empower their humans to do this better. So it's not only that human connection, but also connecting the human to the process, to the data, thanks to the power of the AI we've been walking through today, that is ultimately designed to just help the humans that work for you do their business better. So we have 2 different kind of last extra use cases that we'll take a look at to help encourage your adoption and continued growth of Copilot. The first of these is going to be taking a look at the Copilot adoption community that is built directly inside of Viva Engage. And what's really great about this adoption community is one, that it's pre-templatized and pre-configured and uploaded into Viva Engage. So it makes it that much easier for you to implement, and it gives your team that space to discuss Copilot and the journey that they are going through of understanding AI. But outside of just being easy to implement and having a dedicated space for discussion, it also brings in quite a bit of additional materials like pre-built Copilot learnings and suggested content for your posts. It gives the ability for you as a leader to mark members of that team as community experts, so they have the ability to help moderate conversations that are happening and even decide which answers to questions are the best answers that can be posted. And it even gives you as a leader a plethora of metrics to analyze that give you direct data on how your team is discussing Copilot and answering the questions that they have coming up. So let's take a look at this video, walking through how easy it is to establish one of these communities so you can get started in fostering these conversations. In Toso, Allie Jamieson has taken the first steps to drive AI adoption using Microsoft 365 Copilot. She starts by launching Viva Engage, the hub for employee connection and knowledge sharing. Allie wants to take advantage of the Microsoft 365 Copilot adoption community, which is already preset and configured within Viva Engage. After some light configuration to get the community created, Allie is now ready to go and is prompted with a few ways to start getting the community engaged. Allie pins resources like Contoso's Copilot training material so they're easy to access for everybody on the team. She adds members that are going to be involved in the adoption community, writes a welcoming post, and reviews built-in suggested content to get started on training, and is even able to assign community experts to help moderate the conversations that are happening in this community space. So very quick and easy to get started, have a space that fosters community and conversation about how your team is continuing to better understand and utilize Copilot, and helps to drive the adoption overall as you continue to learn from one another. But outside of just the ability to discuss and foster that space for community learning, you also have the Copilot dashboard that is included with your Copilot licensing directly, once again, inside of Viva, but this time inside of Viva Insight instead of Viva Engage. So what this does is just gives you even more integration with that Viva platform, but overall is a dashboard that includes just many great insights for you to take advantage of. It gives you deeper analysis of the Copilot licenses that you have, gives you deeper insights around how your end users are utilizing those licenses, and even gives quite granular levels of detail around which applications they're in, which features they're using those inside of those applications. So you can really pinpoint where they're spending their time, which applications are getting the most amount of their work done, and which one of those Copilot and AI tools they are gravitating towards the most in order to complete their day-to-day tasks. And what's really great about this Copilot adoption dashboard is that it grows as your organization grows with Copilot. The more Copilot licenses your organization acquires, the higher level of detail that it is able to give you around the way it's being utilized. So it's able to really accommodate the many needs as your organization continues to advance your AI journey. But with that, that was the wrapping up of the 7 different use cases that we were going to be walking through today. Hopefully, whether it was one of those use cases or just some of the understanding of how you can track the Copilot usage and adoption through your team, you were able to see some things that you can instantly start bringing into your day-to-day processes to save a little time and energy. But with that, I'm going to be passing it over to Traci, who you met earlier, to take a look at some wrapping up and next steps. So Traci, do you want to take it over?
Perfect. Thanks, Jordan. I'll let you move on to the next slide. So what I want to focus on is really, this is probably one of the most important slides that we'll talk about today. Copilot and AI is the latest in a stream of digital transformations that include CRM, modern internets, citizen development, business intelligence. If you're like most companies, you're going to follow a fairly standard practice for implementing this type of project, something that's been tried and true for many years. You will start with a project plan, you'll implement that plan, and you'll even include some training and support on the back end to help people get started. Unfortunately, that's the same process that about 70% of companies follow that end up with a failed project. As one recent example, we were talking to an organization that wanted to implement Copilot. They started with licensing and a plan. They deployed it, and they even offered some structured training and links to high quality training content. There's some great stuff out there to get started with Copilot. Unfortunately, after 6 months, they saw less than 20% of adoption of a solution that they knew was going to be a game changer. So just like with humans, success is what you see, and what you see is only the tip of the iceberg. The important part is what you can't see. So what we've found in many years of experience is that virtually every success is supported by two critical but hidden factors: a roadmap, which is much more than just that basic project plan. It is that detailed vision from leadership, plus the initial project plan, and then a center of excellence. It is so much more than support and training. It ensures successful change management through continuous monitoring, improvement, engagement, support, training, and micro projects so that your project is nurtured and doesn't end up in that maintained, messy, and neglected stage. These are the two offerings that C5 Insights offer. We'd love to talk about them more, but whether we have the discussion or not, I absolutely invite you to look internally at how your organization is creating or increasingly powered by luck and considering these practices the proven leaders in digital transformation. I'm going to pass it over to Haley in a second. Essentially, we started with AI and expanded the people-centric. From the beginning, from my experience, we've truly come to believe that we're going to unleash ourselves and our teams to solve problems from small to large that we can imagine solving today. Together, we build that foundation, and it's truly a pleasure and an honor to be able to chat with all of you today and be part of that new foundation that will set the course for the next 100 years. Haley, let you take it away.
All right, thanks so much, guys. So in closing, we would like to extend you an invitation to 365 Leadership Summit. It's this September in Denver, Colorado, and the summit is specifically designed for Microsoft AI and digital transformation leaders and influencers just like you. Stepping away from user training, we're going to be sharing proven strategies for successfully implementing Microsoft solutions like Copilot. And the early bird discount for this summit ends on Sunday, June 1st. So if you would like to learn more and register, we encourage you to visit c5in.co/leader. And then following that summit, we have Community Summit NA in Orlando, which some of you may be familiar with. And if you would plan to attend that, we have a discount code C5Insight10, which you can use when registering. We do have a takeaway for you, so you attended the right webinar. Our first is a popular download on general Copilot use cases across roles. And then we also will be sending you a copy of today's webinar, which includes links to all of the demo videos, as well as a blog that Jordan wrote for us on more information related to driving Copilot adoption and measuring its success with Microsoft Viva Engage and Viva Insight. We can jump into our Q&A with the 15 minutes we have left in our webinar. One of the questions we hear a lot from leaders is ROI. So what's my return on investment from Copilot? What are the productivity gains that we can expect from implementing Copilot? So I would just like to put that out there and have one or both of you speak to that very pressing question, probably in the back of everybody's mind on this call after seeing all of the great things that it can do, but getting down to the numbers.
So yeah, we've heard this question so many times, and understandably so. If you're making an investment, you want to make sure that you're going to get something back for it. So a lot of different ways to look at this. One, Copilot does promise pretty much instant ROI with many of its out-of-the-box features. A lot of the ones that we've looked at today. Hopefully, even as we walk through, you saw how some of those things, like those meeting features, can instantly, even as of right after this call, be brought into your day-to-day processes and save you time, save you a little bit of energy, which might not seem like all that much in one instance. But I think the great part about seeing the ROI with Copilot is the more you use it, the more of your processes you bring Copilot in, those little bits of time savings start to add up. So it might only be 10 minutes of savings from that one meeting. But when you're doing that for every meeting you have, and when you're bringing Copilot into every one of those processes in that way, that time stacks up and pretty quickly, which gives you the ability to reprioritize it, focus it on what's important, bring it back to things that are going to generate more revenue, generate more growth. And that's where a lot more of that additional ROI can come through. So just the more you use it, the more it's going to bring back to you.
Absolutely. I just want to add, we've had some really good case studies that we've posted out there that actually has some fantastic ROI numbers in there. And it is coming directly from those customers that have implemented and gone through training and really dove in and took advantage of AI within the business. And I can tell you that when the leaders were involved and the leaders were really engaging within AI and just getting started and these proof of values, they absolutely have seen astronomical numbers. Some of the things that we've read was 52% of the participants see doing things with Copilot they never had time to do. The amount of time and money saving across the board, as well as 100% quality increase. So definitely a lot of things to look at. Take a look at our case studies that we do have on the website, or just reach out directly and we can kind of walk you through some of those.
You read my mind. I just published in the Q&A 2 links to our Copilot case studies if you want to read the numbers that Traci is referencing there. And then we also have some others on the website if you want to poke around. So my next question after thinking through ROI is the challenge of getting there. So Copilot has all of these great features. It can, improve productivity across the board. Like Jordan said, it really adds up over time when you multiply 10 minutes across everybody in your organization if they're using Copilot. But change is hard. Change is a process. There's a lot to it. So what are the main challenges when it comes to organizations implementing Copilot, and how can they be overcome?
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, Haley, when it comes to some of those challenges and getting a whole team of people, changing all of their day-to-day habits they may have been in for years. I think some of the things that we went through today really help when it comes to that, starting with some of those adoption use cases we talked about, being able to set up a community space specifically geared around your team getting time, investment, and space to develop their AI skills. So they feel like they have the ability to do so is very important. But Traci also talked about, a couple different parallel paths that we recommend when it comes to implementing large digital transformation projects like Copilot, being able to have pilot teams, being able to fully, have people selected to help guide those experiences, and that everybody going through it is fully invested in instead of just being sent a link to some training to walk through, can make a night and day difference to actually getting those programs up and running.
I absolutely agree. I think those are some of the biggest challenges. I think one of the easiest main challenge is, where do we start? How do we get started? Do we need to make sure that everything is secure, that everything's updated, that everything is accurate before we can, get started? No. You can absolutely jump in and take advantage. A lot of the things that Jordan went through today don't require the extensive data security and adoption. It does require, a lot more of that center of excellence, that longer term, so that way you don't have that 70% drop off later on. But we can absolutely help you get started right away, while also looking at your data, looking at your security measures, looking at the business, and seeing how we can make sure to get everything ready for that long-term adoption.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. I can just, in my own experience, think about things that I started and I was so excited about it in the very beginning, and then slowly but surely became uninterested, moved on to other things. And I think that is so true of Copilot and new shiny objects, as we say at C5. So
for sure,
in relation to the challenges and overcoming those across your organization, I think most organizations would say that driving adoption among senior leaders is particularly challenging. So when it comes to encouraging leadership, convincing, influencing leadership to adopt Copilot who may be skeptical, what would you say to them? In your experience, how do you address those levels of leadership when it comes to Copilot adoption?
Great question. I actually just saw a data point earlier this week that I think goes very well with this, that after, Copilot's been around for about 1.5 years now, with the research that Microsoft's been able to do, is they have found that the higher level executives have actually had a better time adopting and understanding things like Copilot because they're already used to delegating. Once you're in those leadership positions, and many of you may feel this, you're already, building your days around assigning tasks to other people, delegating out things, and that is essentially what you are tasking Copilot to do. Is you're delegating Copilot with your notes. You're delegating it to do your research for you, to do your manual data entry. So being in that mindset, and I think instructing them that that's how they go about it. They're speaking to Copilot in their natural language, the way they're already doing their work and doing their delegations, is a really simple way to break it down, to make them understand that they're not going to have to make any massive changes to their behaviors. And just it gets rid of the fluff. If I'm trying to find a very specific piece of information and my organization has, documents and files going back years, it can take me quite a bit of time to try to find that one piece of information that I need as a leader. But being able to have Copilot just find it for me without having to do all of that, I think says a lot.
Absolutely. As someone that has had to make business decisions without having or being boots on ground, or even multiple layers between, knowing the questions that you need to be able to ask your leaders, your contributors, everything, to get the information you need to be able to make those decisions, that's exactly how you will talk to Copilot, right? So without a doubt, the prompting, because you've had to do that already with your leaders. Now you can ask Copilot and get more extensive information. So the prompting is a little bit easier, like Jordan said, delegation and everything. So leaders are really being able to have an easier adoption with it, as long as they, jump in and take advantage.
Okay. So my final question here is, what is the risk of a leader, getting too excited, maybe not too excited, but relying too much on Copilot, in their specific role? Because there are, as this webinar presents, there are specific use cases for Copilot for leaders and executives versus, different roles in the company. So what are those risks with leaders starting to adopt and implement Copilot in their day-to-day workflows?
I'd say it's in the name. It's your Copilot. It's not the pilot. As a leader, you are still very much in that pilot seat, making the decisions and choices for your teams, for your business and organization. And hopefully, I think as we've gone through today, you were able to see that it's not necessarily always taking away a job from you, but allowing you to enhance that process you're already going through. So as I'm sure you may already feel, like that the best way to grow your organization, to be in touch with your team, is to be in the weeds, is to know what your team is going through. So relying a little too heavily, I think, can make you lose a little bit of a touch with what the day-to-day of your organization might be, experiencing. So just keeping it in mind as an assistant, as something you want to double check and verify, and not, always necessarily 100% trust that first answer you get. Just keeping those in the back of your mind as you continue to use it is a good place to be.
Absolutely. And the great thing is Microsoft enables or embeds those grounding mechanisms. So you have the citations, you've got the source links, so you can make sure that the information it's pulling from is the information it should be pulling from and where it is. So you know exactly whether or not you can take that accuracy the way it should be.
I know you work a lot with people all across the org chart, so it's good to have your perspective on the leadership roles as well. So we want to thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next webinar soon.